Welcome back to another episode of the Isn't That Rich podcast. Today we have our famous CEO here, and he is going to tell us how to strategic plan. And you guys just came back from strategic planning, didn't you?
We just got back from Atlanta doing it, yes.
That's where you went?
Yes.
Had to get out of office to go plan.
Sometimes it makes it better.
Oh, that might be one of the tips today.
Well, Charlie, strategic planning started not just right now. And it started a couple months ago. I know we met with the team and did a strategic planning day, and we started there until you did your official strategic planning day. So tell us about the process of your strategic planning and why you think it's important for businesses to do that.
It's extremely important. I just love having a good time with you guys, but it's extremely important to have a strategic plan. You have to map out where you're going. If you don't have a map, you're not going to get anywhere. We've been doing them since 2017, this newer way of a one-page strategic plan. It was a version from Vern Harnish with Mastering Rockefeller.
Rockefeller Habits or something.
Yeah, Rockefeller Habits. And it's one page, so, you have it in front of you all year long. It's not a strategic plan that you just you do it, and you put it on the shelf, and then you look at the end of the year and say, oh, we did it. No, you keep it out, and you adjust it every quarter, and you keep growing from that quarter. So you may start out the year headed one direction, but things happen. You've got a plan. You initiate that plan, and then if something happens, you just kind of fix it.
And what I like about our strategic plan is it gets in the hands of everybody. So we're all able to see it and see what our goal is collectively. And I think that's important that it's visible.
And I think the strategic plan really serves as a business kind of a filter for everything it does, right? So it sets out a clear plan for where you're headed, like you said, Charlie. And so it's kind of a filter for everything. I know in the marketing team, it's something that we use. Is this in line with our goals for this year? And if it's not, we don't do it. So it's kind of serves as a filter. Mm-hmm. So tell us about your process for strategic planning. For somebody who's never done a strategic plan before, what is your process for it? How do you do it?
First is just making time to get away to do it. And offsite is just a little bit better because if you're in your office, you get disrupted. You get people coming in and asking questions that if you're not there, they're going to wait till you get back. So getting offsite, surrounding yourself with, and it doesn't have to be just your executive team. It can be more people throughout the bank with your executive team usually helps too, because you don't necessarily see all the pitfalls or concerns that other people have. So I'd say getting trusted people with you is a good thing.
Yeah, I know you did something different this year. So we sat down with our team about a month ago or 2 months ago now, and you invited people from every department, not just execs like you said. So somebody from every single department was there, and from all different, whether it was a C-suite employee all the way down to a teller, you had somebody from every department. I think that's really important because you're right. Everybody has a different opinion on and sees different issues that are happening within the bank. So I think that's really smart.
And that was kind of the pre-strategic plan day. So You have a strategic planning day, and then you have like the pre-day with more people. So it kind of gives them a better view of when we finalize things and put them on paper.
And I think you also said something really smart, is you said you did it off-site, not at our branch or location. I think that's important too. You got everybody away from their normal day-to-day, so they weren't distracted by their other teammates coming into their office and, interrupting them when this is such an important thing. Especially, I know we've taken it so much more seriously at Farmer State Bank than we have in years past, because it is literally our guiding light. So,
and I have everyone put their cell phones up, which is difficult because we do a lot of work from our cell phones, and we're so dependent upon them. And we give enough time for everyone to be able to get on their cell phones in between breaks and different things like that. But being intentionally focused on what you're doing and not being distracted is what really helps.
Yeah. I want to talk about what we did at that plan. Like the first thing, you had somebody come up and you really look at last year's strategic plan and what didn't work and what did work. And so tell us a little bit about like the exercise we did with writing those things down.
I have to remember what we did, but the biggest thing is you're not going to always get it right. Mm-hmm. things happen. Government changes things. Banking changes. I mean, look at interest rates. When we first started our strategic plan last year, and then, to this year, rates went up dramatically. So now we're, chasing deposits, and, we had tons of liquidity. Now we don't. So, you're not going to always get it right. If we got it right, we'd probably be in a different business. Mm-hmm. So going through that, checking off, why didn't it work? What was wrong with it, is very important. And then why were we successful? What we did is very important. So the other thing we do is the normal SWOT analysis, the strengths, the weaknesses. I just went blank.
You did this at the strategic plan too.
Opportunities and threats. Well, for some reason, I see SWOT as SWAT in my brain instead of SWOT for this deal. So I'm sitting there always thinking, what's the A stand for? And there's not an A in it. But the opportunities, and that was the biggest part. Sometimes when you do strategic planning and you have a lot of people, you can get off the rails really quick.
Yeah.
So keeping everyone focused, I split them in 3 teams so everyone could discuss and talk, but then bring their best ideas to the table was very beneficial. But getting those strengths, when you're in the executive team level, what your strengths are, but you not necessarily know what the entire bank strengths are because you forget about them, mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, sometimes, when you're focusing on these high level issues that the bank is having, you forget that, to get down in front of your everyday day-to-day customer, like what's actually happening, when a customer walks into the bank. So I thought that was so good that you had somebody from all levels there.
I think too, to look at it from a department focus is you could feel like your department didn't do great that year or that week or that month, or you guys are having a lot of issues. But when you look at the bank as a whole and everybody collectively bringing their strengths and weaknesses, you see that maybe you're not the only department with issues. Mm-hmm. And, some people are doing fabulously at the bank. I don't know. I just think it's a nice perspective.
Yeah. I want to know. So you talked about you do this once a year, but it is not 2024 yet.
Correct.
And you are planning super early. What is your reasoning for this? Why are you planning this early? I mean, it's 4 months before the new year. So we're planning for next year already.
We are planning for next year already. You get into that last quarter and there's so much going on that it's hard to focus on where you want to go. So I think coming out just a little bit before that last quarter gives you a chance to really think about it and not get bogged down for year-end stuff. Mm-hmm. For some reason, year-end and Christmas and holidays and trying to get all planned. I mean, it just seems like you're just overwhelmed. So we went out and did it in August. We finalized it. And to be honest, we did such a good job in August that there's not much changing to the strategic plan from our initial meeting. But we'll look at it again towards year-end in January because, like I said, it's a living document. It's out. We keep it out in front of everybody all year long. I keep it on my desk all year long. So we can change. We can make adjustments to it. And then you're building off that strategic plan every quarter with different, we call them tops and smarts, building off of those so you're focused every quarter on finishing everything on that strategic plan.
I love that. I want to talk about the day of, like, when we met with the team. So we met, I can talk a little bit about it. So we met at an offsite location. So we went to a church and it was a conference room. So everybody was really comfortable. We had a slideshow, like we had a smart board where you could write, and you had like the paper with the marker you could write and everybody could see it. So it was more of a collaboration than really just somebody preaching about what happened last year. And then it was an all-day event. I mean, we started at 8:30 and you had some goodies provided for breakfast and you did lunch there. And then it went till about 4:00. And so it was an all-day event. You took an hour, every hour, I think you had a 5 to 10 minute break so people could get up and wander around. But I think that was so important that you set it up that way because it takes a long time to really dive into each one of those. Like, what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses, our opportunities and threats? It takes a long time to go through and actually really dig into it. So
I think even down to the details, like who you were sitting by at it, like it was very, You weren't sitting by, I didn't sit by you, Jill.
No.
Because you and I have the same brain and would bring, so sitting by different people in different departments and even getting to see people that you don't get to work with. Like they maybe work in Harrisburg and I got to sit by them. So it was really nice.
And I think about that too. Like I loved that I got to sit next to Chris Healy, who's in our SBA department, because when I think about what the goal is or what our best opportunity for next year would be, I'm thinking about, the culture and this and that. And then Chris Healy is a numbers guy and he's like, we need to focus on this and that. So I was like, yeah, maybe I'm changing what I think our opportunities are. So it was really good to have different people hear about the different problems. So I think that was really smart too, that you did that.
Yeah. I spent some time thinking about who would compliment who at each table, because you don't want to get someone that would be meek and mild at a table with a bunch of lions and they never speak up. So I wanted to get it where everyone could interact and we could get good feedback from everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At the strategic planning days, I think you really encourage people to think big. Can you talk about how important that is when you're planning for the next year, thinking big and being audacious?
I like audacious. I think you definitely have to think big because, as humans, we like to go back to what's easy. Mm-hmm. We don't want to think about what's hard. And you're never going to grow and go to that next level unless you're wanting to do some hard work. And to do the hard work, you really have to think big. Otherwise, you can just follow what your competitors do or follow what you read in a book. But, if you want to be different, you want to be extraordinary, you have to think outside the box.
And I think if you set small goals, you're going to achieve them. And then you sit and coast along and hit mediocrity. Right.
And that happened here for a long time. You get complacent and comfortable and you do the same thing. And then you realize, oh my goodness, my competitors have just taken over our market share. And then you're sitting there thinking, now I've got to work at getting it back. How do I do that? Because I've just spent 10 years doing the same thing. So you've got to keep moving. You got to keep growing, keep developing.
How often so I know you said you sit down once a year and you plan early, and you said you review it quarterly. Is that how often you're looking at this strategic plan?
We look at it as a executive team. We look at it every month. So we see where we're at. But quarterly, we review that plan and we build out what are called tops and smarts. 3 things that are very important to get done. And if we could get done in this quarter and they would finalize something on our strategic plan, we start there, and then every month we check in to see where we're at on those tops, is what we call them.
So tops are like the 3 things that are most important for that department.
The tops are the 3 most important things for the bank at that time.
Okay.
And then the smarts underneath it, maybe 3 things under each top that help to finalize or finish that top. So
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a way to make sure you get things done. I know it's confusing when I'm throwing out tops and smarts, but that's how we.
It's just our structure of how we do things here.
Yeah. It's kind of like if we could map it out, you would have your top and then your 3 and then your 3 and then your.
It's like little bullet marks that you can check. Yeah.
Awesome.
Something this year though that I came back with that I can't wait to try next year. When we went down to Atlanta with some speakers was called Kill the Company, and I can't wait to do that with everybody. It is a way to organize thoughts on if these bad things happened, would it kill our company? And then you get to say, okay, we know these are things, but this is what we have in place to keep it from going, or we don't have anything in place for it. We need to start figuring it out. So it's a little more than just the SWOT analysis. It's now something else. So I can't wait to try that next year. It's going to be very interesting.
Did someone speak on that?
They did, yeah.
So that was your big takeaway.
That was my huge takeaway.
Kill the company.
I love that because what is the worst thing that could happen? Yeah. And how are you going to, and then what is the worst after that? What happens after that? And what happens after that?
The good thing about it is like we did our strategic planning, you have all facets of the organization. So you have everybody hearing it. Some people may not know that we have precautions in place for if one of our major lenders leaves, what happens? And then they get fearful because we've had that happen in the past. A lender leaves and everybody's like, what are we going to do now? Well, this way, the exercise also helps with realize, oh, they've got a plan in place for that. Oh, this is what we're going to do next. So it brings comfort to everybody also.
I think that's so important for company culture.
Absolutely.
What else should we talk about?
Well, I think it's so you talked about the tops and the smarts. How are you measuring that these things are getting done? Like you said, you meet with the executive team monthly, but how are you measuring what's actually being done? I mean, you have this strategic plan and it's always great to have like, oh, this is the goal we want to be, but how do you ever say, or how do you measure we're getting closer to those goals? What
Good question.
Yeah.
So each top has an executive member assigned to it and a date of when it's got to be completed. Then each smart has a teammate of some sort with that, doesn't have to be executive, be anybody, with their name and the date when they have to get that done. So there's regular check-ins on that. So you're going to get your, if it's a project, you're going to get your project completion. If it's, loan growth or top 100 met, you're going to track how many, we closed or how many loans were done or income. So, you have some measurement tools there too. But, getting a team member assigned to it helps to make sure you get it done. Because if you just do it as a group and say, hey, this is our top and we're going to get it done. But if you got someone that's in charge of it, then they know they've got to report back, it's going to get done.
I think it's really important what you're talking about measurements, because on our strategic plan, we have a lot of numbers and we have a lot of, it's just, your goal has to be measurable, improvable. You can't just write down very vague things on a strategic plan and think, oh, this happened, we were all happy. That's not what you're going to write on a strategic plan. It's like, I'm going to hit this by this date.
Another thing we do at our bank is we do quarterly reviews with every single employee. And I think because of these tops and these smarts that you've decided on, you actually sit down with each employee and show them how that they tie into our goals or our profit for the bank, or how they actually contribute to the success of the bank. So I feel like not only having this one-page strategic plan, but having those tops and smarts that are actually tangible for every single employee is really, really helped with the success of the bank. So,
one thing about the one-page strategic plan that we use is the BHAG, and the BHAG is
big,
hairy, audacious goal.
There you go.
I call the big hairy.
The big hairy.
That's great. So, it has where we're going 20 years from now. When we all get together, we want to know where we're going 20 years from now. And that's important because, we can do a one-page, a 1-year strategic plan and never know where we're going to go. That's just the most important for the year, but where are we truly trying to get to? So, our strategic plan is set up for a 20-year section, a 3 and 5 year section, and what we have to get done this year. We also have on our values and our vision. So everybody in the organization knows where we're going, what we got to get done this year, what we got to reach in year 3 and 5, and what values we have to hold ourselves accountable to make sure that we can get this done.
What are some of our values? Do you remember them?
Oh, I do remember them. I should be asking you guys, what's our vision?
Oh, that every person would...
Every customer.
Oh, you're getting me tripped up now, Charlie.
That's
every
what
customer
you were trying to do me, so I threw it right back.
Would leave our bank. Oh, I'm messing it up now. We got to cut all this out. It's transform my bank transformed my life and legacy forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say it together.
Yeah.
I reminded you guys of what it was.
There we go.
Exactly right.
Yeah, so it's nice. We have like visions, values, numbers, all those things on a strategic plan. What happens when, or have you ever gotten to this point at the bank where you reviewed the strategic plan like quarterly or on that monthly basis, and you were not hitting goals, or you were not hitting the numbers, or some things didn't happen that really needed to happen?
I don't think we ever hit where numbers weren't where they were supposed to be, but I will say that when we had COVID, that completely changed everything that we were planning for the year. We didn't have a global pandemic in there. So,
Right.
So staffing and figuring out, we can't see customers. I mean, it was a whole new thing. So that's where the one-page strategic plan comes in great, because it's out there in front, and you're like, yeah, we're scratching this, we're scratching this, we're scratching this. Now we're still want our 3 to 5 year goals. So what do we need to do now with this happening? What's the most important thing? And we change them and we move on.
And it's okay to change.
Absolutely.
So this is not, I mean, it's a guideline, but it's not set in stone. Like if we do not hit this, it's not going to be Farmer State Bank is crumple up that piece of paper, we're a failure. You know, it's just a guideline to get us to where we want to be. It's like if everything goes perfectly on this plan, we would be above and beyond what we would ever imagine. So it's kind of like that reaching for the stars, and sometime you'll land upon, reaching for the sun and moon, and you'll land upon the stars if you don't hit the moon, right? Yeah. So I think that's really important to remember too about when you're doing the strategic plan. Yeah,
it's a living document. It really does. You can't just shelf it or keep it on your computer. You're never going to really look at it. It's got to be right there because, you have to be nimble enough to change things on the fly.
Mm-hmm. Talk about how important a strategic plan plays in not being mediocre. So you always talk about we want to keep going up. And I think sometimes if people don't have a vision, they'll go kind of stagnant.
Absolutely. I mean, if you what's the old saying? If you fail to plan,
you plan to fail.
That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's true because, look at all the organizations that over the years, you got your Blockbusters and your Kodaks and all those types of big companies, completely different than what we are. I'm not comparing us, but, they didn't change. And if you're not changing and you're not using your strategic plan to stay extraordinary and to keep growing, then you're going to get gobbled up, or the next thing's going to come in and take over. I mean, in banking, we have a lot of competition, and we can use that as a crutch and say we're not going to get there because we have credit unions, we have the regional banks, we have the big banks, we have the fintechs, we have this and we have that. Everyone's got competition. You just got to lay a plan out, follow the plan. And if you follow a plan, you're going to be successful. If you don't, and you're just out there wandering, you're just going to diminish and be gone.
Yeah, I think there's that saying out there too, that a business is going to fail the moment that all their employees start saying, well, this is how we've always done things around here. And I think that's so true, because if you don't change with the times, if you don't get, be creative and be strategic in how you're adaptable,
Audacious.
then you will be left behind. Yeah. So
it's really good.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I learned a lot about strategic planning today.
Yeah, and it doesn't sound complicated, but maybe we can put up this one page, an empty template or something for our viewers to use on their own. We'll make it so it could be
something fun for everybody.
So they can take it and use it for themselves if they want to do strategic planning.
Yeah, I mean it's in Mastering the Rockefeller Habits by Vern Harnish. It's out there. It's free.
Yeah,
on the website.
And it's one of your favorite books, isn't it?
It is a really good guide to think big and accomplish some great things.
Yeah, love it.
Charlie, if you could leave our viewers with one tip today about strategic planning, what would it be?
Don't get overwhelmed. Make time for it. Get rid of the distractions and jump in with both feet and just go.
Love it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on today.
I appreciate you guys letting me come back. I didn't know if I'd ever get to come back.
Well, hopefully we'll
have you
want to come back again.
Okay.
Well, thanks for being on here again, Charlie. We appreciate it.
I appreciate it too.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
See you next week.